Hey guys, Horror Man back for another review. So today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the brand new Matty Collector's Mumm-ra figure. Now this was the subscription only figure for the Third Earth club that they had, and is one of the last figures to release for the Thundercats line. Now you can see it comes in this black box, and you can see Mumm-ra, Thundercats, and a little bit of the symbols on here. You can see the Thundercats name with the logo right here, and then you can see a little black and white picture of Mumm-ra, and then you can see a little background here on the side. So really cool looking slip case. Now you can just open this up, there's no tape on it, and then you could just pull out the figure, and it's in another different box. And it's really nice. I like the different artwork on here. You can see Lion-O with the Sword of Omens, and then you can see Mumm-ra clearly displayed in here with all the different accessories. Now the artwork on the side looks like just some newer artwork that they did for the packaging. It doesn't look like it represents the 80s cartoon, but it is done in that same style that he had. And then you can just see a little description of Mumm-ra, and you can see the MattyCollector.com logo. So really cool packaging on this figure. Now, of course, the Thundercats line is now over. I think the last release they had was Panthro. And then there was 5 different characters in the subscription line. And then there was, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con figures. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this out of the packaging and get a closer look. Okay, so here's Mumm-ra out of the packaging with some of the accessories. Now you do get 2 capes with him, or cloak, however you want to call it. The one that he's pictured with here is the more open cloak, and then the other one will cover most of his body. So to get the actual cape off, it's fairly easy. You just have to kind of get it over top of the head sculpt. So you just kind of push on his face just a little bit, and then it should just pop off of there, just like that. Now I really like what Mattel's done with the head sculpt here. Very cool looking. I always thought he had kind of like a bit of like a monkey face to him, and he definitely comes off that way here. And then you can see he's got those big red eyes. You can see his white, like jagged teeth in here, and he's got this kind of like dead blue color to his face. What I really like about this too, one, I do like the open mouth, so it kind of looks like he's talking a little bit, but I really like this bandage in the front hanging down here. I think they've done a really good job with that. It's definitely something that the character has always had, and I'm glad that they didn't forget to include that. And then the rest of them, you can see he's got pretty good articulation on the head sculpt. But yeah, not too much else going on here, just some wrinkles in his face and some different like cracks in his skin and things like that. But very cool head sculpt. And the rest of the body looks pretty good too. The arms are actually connected in the back with this one piece here, so you do want to be careful not to stretch his arms too far. So he does have some hindering to the amount of poses you can get these arms in, but I really like the usage of the sculpted bandages along with the loose bandages. I think they've done a really good job of that. And then the actual skin tone is just, again, that like kind of blue, like dead color to him. So there's not a ton of details going on here, but the actual bandages are key to this character, and they've really mixed it up with the sculpted and loose. So it really does give a lot more to the character, and there really isn't a lot to Mumm-ra. So I think it's a great job that Matty's done here. And again, you do get the 2 cloaks with it. This is the open cloak, and you can see how much more spread out this is in the front. And if you compare the 2 different cloaks next to each other, you could definitely see how much more covered this one on the right is. Now, one downfall I've had with this figure is that I really can't get this hooded cloak on really well without having to pop the head off. So you could try to put it over top of the figure, but you really risk a lot trying to do this, but you can try to force his head up and it just won't go. So in order to get this on, you're better off just popping this head off, which comes off very easily, and then just kind of sliding the figure up into a position where you can kind of just see the peg, and then you can put this head in here, and then you have to get it in a certain way to where you can kind of pop this head on. You can kind of push down on the hood a little bit, and then you can get him in the cloak, the more closed cloak that is. Now the only thing I don't like about it is this kind of sticks out a little far from the side, the bandage, but I think it would actually stick out anyway. Like in the cartoon, I'm pretty sure his bandages kind of fall out of the cloak. But yeah, I kind of wish that the cloak could go on a little bit easier without having to pop the head off. And of course, you're really going to limit the articulation with this look. But this is definitely what Mumm-ra generally looks like. Besides the cloaks, you do get this awesome staff here, and you can see kind of looks like a minotaur or something. He's got like the red horns, the red eyes, and the red teeth, and then the rest of it's just this black, black handled staff. And he also comes with this little gold piece here, which I believe was supposed to be used with one of the swords later on in the series, but I'm not sure if this will ever actually be of any use, but it does come in the packaging. And then you also get two different interchangeable hands other than the ones he already has. You can see one's a gripping hand and one's a more open hand. One thing about this cloak that you have to consider is that his right arm is a little bit hindered, so getting him to hold the staff in the right arm is a little bit tricky. And then the left hand definitely has an open hand, so he's not going to hold it well. But of course, the good thing is you actually do get interchangeable hands. So the hands are a little bit tight, so I had to kind of like really work this off, but it does come off there like that. And then you can just put this other option in, and you can see even the peg kind of has a little bit of that plastic left over on it, so that's going to be a little tough to get in there. But I can try to work that in. It does look like it went in there fine. Once you get that different left hand on, you can kind of open up the fingers just a little bit to fit the staff in. And here he is holding it in his left hand. So that is really cool. Alright, so the articulation's a little weird on Mumm-ra. So let's go ahead and get right into that. Now with this cloak, you really can't do too much. You can kind of move his arms in a little bit. This arm is frozen. You really can only go up and down a little bit. And then you can still move his leg and his feet and everything, but you really can't do much with this whole right side of his body. So that's pretty much it. You can still move the head a little bit, even though it's in this little hood. But there really isn't a lot with this cloak. Not many people are going to display him without the cloak, but if you do, it definitely opens it up for the best articulation you can get with Mumm-ra. The head turns freely, you can go all the way around, go up and down pretty good, nothing really hindering the movement much, and then you can kind of angle his head a little bit of pivot in there. You can only go so far out and up with the arms, and that's because, again, that the bandages are actually connected to both arms. You see it's this one piece that has the two little bandages, and that is not going to be able to move very far without moving the other arm. So that's about as far up as you can go. You can still bend the elbow here, and then you can go out about that far, and then you can twist the wrist, and then there is a little bit of articulation here. Not too much, but you can kind of cradle at wrist just a little bit. And then the legs can go pretty decently far out, but again, the bandages do hinder him from doing a high kick, but I don't think Mumm-ra would do that anyway. And then there is a knee bend, and then the feet can go up and down a little bit. They can rock a little bit as well. And the legs can actually go out pretty far, almost like a split. But again, you really have to kind of keep both of these arms together if you want to spread out too far. And you can kind of move these bandages in the back around a little bit to make it a little bit better. But yeah, for the most part, you're not going to get a ton of articulation here. But yeah, in the decaying form, you really wouldn't expect Mumm-ra to really do a lot of action poses, so I think this is fine for what the character is. And if you do want to display him with the more open cape, you really don't have any hindered movement aside from the head can only turn so much. But I mean, it's pretty open. I mean, you could pretty much use all the articulation he has. So for the first comparison, here's Mumm-ra next to Skeletor. Now this was the Club Eternia Filmation exclusive. And as you can see, Skeletor is definitely bigger than Mumm-ra, but Mumm-ra's not in the ever-living form. So if they did make the ever-living version of Mumm-ra, he'd probably be about the size of Skeletor. Okay, and for the next comparison, here he is next to the Mirage Shredder. And now this one's made by NECA Toys, and he's in more of a little bit higher 6 to 7 inch scale, but you can see that they actually look pretty cool next to each other. Shredder might be just a little bit smaller than the bulkiness of the characters that Mattel makes, but these do look really cool next to each other. And here he is next to the Marvel Legends Black Panther from the Civil War movie. And unfortunately, I don't have the Mattel Lion-O just yet, but this is what the Bandai Classic Lion-O looks like next to Mumm-ra, and this is the first release. Now this one's more in like the 8.5 inch size. He is actually over 8 inches, so he's pretty big. He's made more like the classic, you know, original collectibles that came out in the 80s, and you can even see how big he is next to the Playmates Michelangelo. So that's a pretty big figure. Now they did scale these down at one point, so if you did collect that Bandai line, the smaller ones should look pretty good next to Mumm-ra, but they actually might be a little bit too small. So, but right now that's all I have to show you for Lion-O. Alright, so that's my review. All in all, I think this is an excellent figure. It's a really true representation of what the cartoon Mumm-ra looked like, and I really like that it's been captured so well. Now, if you remember, Four Horsemen's done a lot of really successful lines. They were even responsible for the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff. So this is a group of people that really, they seem to really have nailed the 80s cartoon guys. But you know, they've done the Masters of the Universe line, and this Thundercats was supposed to be like the next thing, but something happened where it just, I guess Mattel just decided to not do it anymore. So there's a chance that Super 7 might pick up this line. It's going to be probably a year or so down the road, if it even happens. So, you know, don't get out your checkbook yet, nothing's happening. But they have taken over for He-Man. I was a little disappointed they didn't do the Filmation stuff, which I really enjoyed, and I thought the Skeletor especially and the He-Man could have used a re-release, but unfortunately they haven't got that yet. So you're going to pay around $65 to $70 for this figure, and the same thing goes for that Skeletor. They are definitely a bit in demand, and you had to get a subscription service to get Mumm-ra. You know, he was part of the Third Earth subscription, and he was the only real exclusive figure. The rest of them you can get for a decent price, aside from Lion-O, which is also about $65 to $70. But yeah, I mean, the articulation's not perfect, but I mean, he's a mummy, and again, this isn't decaying form. It's not like he's the ever-living Mumm-ra, which would be a lot bigger, and definitely need more articulation. So, but for the most part, I think it's really cool. It'll look great in the 80s, you know, display, maybe just some Ninja Turtles, some He-Man, stuff like that. If you have any questions, or if you want to leave a comment, please do. Please subscribe, like the review, and until next time, guys, see ya!